Everybody loves a take two, don't they? Today is June 11th, 2013, and this is the KNKL Show, episode 87. I am your host, Ken Lafferty, and today we are going to be doing a tutorial on simplifying the female anatomy so that you can pose it dynamically and not have a rough time. But before we get into that, we need to take a stroll down the lovely lane, and I forgot exactly where we left off, so we might be seeing a couple repeats here, but that's okay because they are all awesome. And I wanted to say thank you to everyone who has been submitting your artwork as usual to the KNKL Facebook page. Please continue to do so. Makes my day every time. Moving on to the Twitter. If you have not subscribed or followed me, whatever they call it on this thing, please do so because I won't bug you when I'm making cinnamon toast or eating coconut or drinking coconut milk, even though I probably should. But I will update you when I am posting new videos to YouTube and when I like things now, I guess. It puts my likes for Daisy and all that stuff. Which is all cool. If you want to see that stuff, then go ahead and follow me. Lastly, I would like to thank all of you out there, artists tuning in, that subscribed, or not only subscribed, but submitted your art entries to the Emma Art Contest. The judging is underway right now, and I will be revealing the winners in a week. Alright guys, with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into the tutorial. Simplifying female anatomy. Alright, and this is going to be very, very, very fun. So the first thing we're going to be doing is we're starting with our new document, as usual. We're going to pick kind of like a gray, kind of like a, I usually like to go for a purple gray. It's a little easier on the eyes. And we're going to start sketching with our texture brush, right? You want to make sure you get yourselves a good texture brush because if you stick with this, it's a little bit harder to sketch. I mean, you still can do it, but I like the natural texture that occurs in some of these brushes. Be it the renderer brush, and you can pick these things up off of my DeviantArt site. You just download the brushes on there, or you can just download some brushes from some other site, or just make your own. But today we're going to be working with the chalk brush, and I really like this one because it's kind of got a little bit of like a calligraphy feel to it. You kind of, press this way, it's a thin line. This way, it's a little bit thicker. It just automatically adds a little bit of natural texture to your drawing. So that's what we're going to be doing today. And we're going to be subliminally, or simultaneously, exploring the subliminal thoughts of the fear that goes into creating poses, right? Because this is something that I even still deal with, like, every day. Like, when I'm making the comic, I'm always like trying to figure out like these poses, and luckily I have like this giant mirror right next to the desk that I can kind of like stand and do like my cool poses in really quick and just kind of like look at how the arm kind of foreshortens as it comes towards you, and that helps out a lot. But still, I really believe that good artists should be able to work, they should be able to put together poses without having to worry about photo reference all the time. Okay? So, again, what we're going to be doing today is we're simplifying female anatomy and creating dynamic poses. Because we kind of did this for the male anatomy a couple dailies ago. And for this one, I'm just going to show you my personal technique for creating the female anatomy and in a simplified way. So first what I do is I start with the head shape, right? And you'll notice that I kind of start, I don't make it like a circle and then this thing. I kind of have just started like simplifying this into an egg shape. I really like doing that. I just simplify it right into an egg shape, and then the neck comes right down like that. And I try to keep it a little bit thinner than usual, right? And so this brings us right into the shoulders, right? And one thing that I like to do here is when I connect the shoulders to the torso, is I really like to think about the center point that's kind of running through it, right? Because we're going to be creating sort of like a, kind of like that more curvy, more hourglass figure, right? This is going to start to look a lot like a mannequin you would see in like a shopping mall, right? All the girls out there shopping for your clothes, you probably will recognize this. And guys too, if you look at that stuff, like I do. Like a weirdo. You'd be like, that mannequin, nice, nice. It's just made out of fabric, right? It doesn't even have a face. It's actually like cut off at the head sometimes. It just has like an open neck hole, right? So this is what you usually see. But even then, it's like, nice, nice. Alright, so let's continue with this. So a big thing that I really like to do is I always like to try to bring the hips out to the edges of the shoulders, right? You notice if you draw lines right up, hips connect with the shoulders. The hip bone connects to the shoulder bone in this case. Right? In Keenan land. That is the rule. All right, so you got this stuff going on here, right? Now, what's very, very simple is, you can just start drawing down arms and stuff like this. And again, this is all dealing with simplification. So we're not even going to worry so much about like joints, right? We're not even going to worry about arms or we're not going to worry about elbows and all that stuff. We're actually just going to draw things down like this. We're going to draw almost like noodle arms, right? Kind of like Adventure Time noodle arms. This just allows me to really, really quickly lay stuff down as opposed to drawing, okay, here's the shoulder, and then here's like the bicep, and here's, the elbow joint there, and then that, and then we got to draw all the detail in the hand like that, right? This just allows me to really quickly get a feel of what the flow of the arm and I guess whatever body part I'm drawing is. And I really, really like doing stuff like this because for those of you who have done, you don't even have to do much figure drawing. I haven't done much, but every time that I actually sit in a class for figure drawing, it always amazes me how, no matter how the model positions himself or herself, there's a natural flow line that's going through the body, a natural line of balance. And this is what you're seeking to achieve by doing this, right? By simplifying the figure, you're searching for that flow line that's going through there, right? And that could be this thing, right? See, that flow line goes through there, that flow line. There's flow lines all throughout the body. And you want to do your best to kind of start exploring these and capturing these as efficiently as you can, because this will move into the next thing when we start doing the dynamic poses, right? And, okay, so let's go ahead and move into the legs. Let's go ahead and get rid of this stuff, and I'll talk to you about very, very simple ways to add legs. And this is actually my very, very favorite thing to do. Very, very favorite thing to do when I'm drawing girls in the simplified form, because this still gives me a lot of information as to what's going to be happening with the legs, right? So similarly, what I like to do is I like to think of almost like they're wearing a one-piece swimming suit, right? So you just draw these little lines up that will connect to the hips, like that. See right there? And naturally, the legs will come right out of that, right? And then you can easily start to play around with where you want these legs to go. One could be stepping forward like this, and the other one is kind of sitting back like that, right? And you notice how this line just flows right into that, and that flows into that. And this is something that's really, really important when you're drawing females, especially. Guys can be a lot more stocky and more squared off, but female bodies seem to work better when you have these natural flowing lines, and especially when the legs kind of come inward. This is one thing that I kind of really don't like about my old how to draw girls, how to draw females. That was probably episode 20 of the KNKL Show. It was probably a year ago. But I originally drew the girl, and I mean, you can go back and check it out, but everything was about right? Because I had the hips here. But then a big problem that I made, or a big problem that I did with it, was I made the legs come straight down. So you had something looking like that. It looked like a freaking a restroom stall, right? With the skirt and that thing, right? But if you want to create lustrous ladies, attractive ladies, it's really, really nice to kind of think about their legs kind of coming more to a point, right? If you were to draw super simplified, you almost want to have something like that going on. And I'm not saying that their feet come to a point, but just in general, if you were to simplify all that stuff. And then again, look, see, one-piece swimsuit technique. You just almost tee off the legs to draw the crotch right there. And then you just kind of go up and up like that. And then what's really cool about that is when you create that line, that's the natural bending point of the legs. And you can really, I don't know, it just really, really helps me create a natural feel when the legs are bending. What are you guys talking about over here? What are you guys talking about over here? Let us see. And naturally, I mean, another big thing that I want to do when I go into drawing females is I want to make sure that we're covering all different types of bodies, right? Because I think that all different types of feminine bodies can be very attractive, right? And I think really all that, I I think a big thing that I've been seeing going around nowadays for like more curvier girls is it's actually very, very simple to take this slender girl, right, that like pretty much everybody draws, and then draw like an attractive, more curvy girl. And I'll show you that right now. Because I think that is very important, and I must show that. Okay, so basically compare to this chick over here, right? This is almost kind of on the way to being there. This is something that is very, very easy to do. And basically, all you're going to do to draw a more curvy girl is you're just going to kind of widen the hips a little bit. It's almost just a little bit more proportionate. And the changes in the proportions are going to be very, very subtle, as you'll see here. Basically, same thing is going to be happening, but you're going to push out the waist just a tad bit, right? And then you're going to have larger shoulders there. And then with the legs, I think a really, really cool thing to do on the legs is just bring those hips out quite a ways like that, right? Really just accentuate, almost like it's a little bit more caricaturish to do it like this, like kind of accentuating the legs. But I still think that this makes it more, it's still attractive in a way. It just looks like a more fuller, beautiful woman, voluptuous. And of course, with bigger hips come bigger assets, right? So gotta make sure you get the chest region in there. The boobius maximus, as we say here. And so, but I want you guys to pay attention to really just the subtleties between this and this over here, right? And just the minor changes that I did to make it work like that. And still the simplicity of what's happening, okay? Yeah, but I really like that. I think the biggest thing is just a little bit more, like, a little bit more in the calves, tiny bit more in the calves here. And of course, all this stuff can be rendered out to be however you want it to be. But I think that those are the biggest changes that I would make. Is all just a bunch of little tiny subtle things that will make a different body type with a woman. As opposed to the guys, you can have like really tiny, scrawny, nerdy guy like me, and then you can have massive Hulk dude with no neck, right? Giant, muscular bodybuilder dude. And those changes can be huge. But with girls, even in comics, it seems like they all kind of stick around a very, very close, set of proportions. But that is very good, very good. Very, very good. Alrighty, and I hope you guys aren't like offended by me saying like this, like if you were a girl that looks like this, you're freaking hot, okay? This is like freaking skinny, like this is almost like nasty skinny if you were to put this in the real world. And if you look like that, then you're still attractive, but I just don't want, like, I think that's why so many artists like dance around this subject. It's just like, now we're gonna learn how to draw a bigger girl, right? And then they draw like something that looks like a normal woman, you know, as opposed to these tiny like stick figure comic book chicks that, you know, not everybody looks like that. Not all girls look like that. So I hope that you're not offended. And if you are, then I do apologize. And please feel free to flame me in the comments and tell me I am an inconsiderate artist for giving such a tutorial. How dare you? But until then, we will continue with our lovely comic book chicks. Because now that we have simplified female anatomy, we want to move into dynamic posing. Okay? So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about this. Now that you have noodle arms and you have simplified one-piece bathing suit type stuff going on, we're going to talk about that. So let's go ahead and get started, shall we? Okay. So let's say that we want to draw this girl with like a couple guns, right? Like cool guns, like kind of jumping back, shooting, jumping out a window. I don't know, something like you would see in the Matrix. Let's try something like that with what we've learned here, right? Okay, so we're going to start with the head. Okay, egg shape right there. Egg shape right there, and then what we're going to do is we're going to figure out very quickly what is this line of action that we want. Do we want to have her, if she's jumping back, we're going to have something like this, right? We're going to have like a line of action happening like this. All right, so let's go ahead and just lay in that hourglass thing that's going on here, right? Sometimes I like to kind of like draw the bottom of it, you know, as if it was like kind of like a cross section. Kind of like doing that. And then good things to keep in mind when you're drawing poses is oftentimes I'll kind of compare it to myself. It's like, okay, so if I was jumping out of a window and I have like 2 guns, right? Let's, okay, they're just figurative guns, right? So if I was jumping out of a window like this, I just do that, and then I do the position, and then I notice kind of specifically where my shoulders are lining up with my face, right? Because I notice my shoulders are raised, right? Like looking almost down the sights of one gun, and then the other gun is kind of like off to the side. Just this is the cool gun right here. This is the more practical gun that you're aiming down. And yeah, so I do something like this, and I like that, right? And then notice you can even see like in my body how it kind of like curves down like this. There's like a, even though I'm leaning against the chair, there's like a natural flow that is happening. So every time I'm doing something like that, I usually try to just pay attention closely to where like my shoulders are, and I think that really, really helps me out when I'm laying down these dynamic poses, so to speak. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and lift this shoulder up. And let's go ahead and just keep in mind, we're more paying attention to the length of the arm, right? As opposed to, okay, let's get all of this anatomy perfect. Because to be honest, you could position this hand anywhere that you wanted. You could have the hand here, and you could make that work by foreshortening. You could even have the hand here, and you could foreshorten it. You see what I'm saying there? Like, you decide where these body parts are going to go, and then you get to say, okay, well, because the hand is here, that means we're going to have to foreshorten this here. There's going to have to be the forearm here. And then it's going to foreshorten right on back to the shoulder. So I hope that makes sense to you guys. You can really just choose where you want these body parts to be, pretty much within reason, and then you get to choose how much foreshortening is happening there. But because I'm going to have the gun there, it's probably going to be covering up her face, and we want to move it out a tad bit. Or I want to actually maybe move it more like this, like maybe have her hand here, right? And then she's more like that. And then that means that if both of these guns are pointed in a general direction here, that means that other hand is going to have to be kind of pointed this way too, right? So we're going to have something like this, right? And see how I'm working very, very simply with simplified shapes. It's like, okay, this shape represents a gun, and then this thing going back represents our, our perspective. And this is really, really helpful when you're laying down stuff. And oftentimes what I'll do is I'll lay in a shape like this, and then I'll like cut things out to be like, okay, well, here's the trigger finger right there, and then here's the rest of the fingers. See that? So it's not like I'm going in there and I'm drawing all this stuff. It's like I'm laying down the shapes first, and then I'm cutting out the light. Alrighty. Alrighty. Okay, so let's go ahead and continue here. Continue with our lovely lady. Alright, so another thing that I like to think here is when we're laying in, when we're going to start putting in the legs, is, again, one-piece swimsuit technique. Come to us. Okay, so you got the little hips over here, and then, this would be like the crotch if this was like a like a cross-section mannequin. The crotch right there. And then you get to go ahead and lay in the legs however you want them to go. Right? So let's say let's have something like this, right? I almost do this. Like, this shape right here represents the foot and the knee, right? Kind of going like that. And then this, because I've positioned it there, that means that this leg is going to be foreshortened back like that. But notice how I'm not worrying about all that stuff yet. All I'm doing is I'm just laying in these basic shapes and simplified designs. That way I know what's going to be happening, and if I don't like it, I can just go back in here and erase it really quickly and be like, no, I want the leg to be a little bit different. I kind of like that, so let's go with that for right now. And let's do the second leg, kind of jumping out like this. So that looks pretty cool. I like that. And really, I think the biggest thing to pay attention to is what is the overall silhouette too? What's happening with the silhouette? The outside lines, what is this reading as? And this is something that really is the biggest challenge for me, right? Because notice how this leg is a little bit longer than this one, but I like that, right? I like the fact that this leg is a little bit longer than that one. So you ask yourself, okay, what do we have to do to have this leg be longer than that one? Well, it's simple, right? All you have to do is make sure that this leg is actually going back in space, right? So if this lady has like a boot on or whatever, I'm really, really bad at like drawing boots and feet. Another reason why I like to work simplified first and then move into that stuff. But let's go ahead and just give it our best. All right, so we've got this leg going back like that. All right, so that's going back in space. And this foot is going to be coming forward in space, right? So we're going to have this boot more like that, okay? And see how I'm just laying these things in? See how I'm just almost laying in the shape, and then I go back in and erase to create whatever look I'm wanting, okay? So now we're getting somewhere. Now we're getting somewhere, and I like it. And another really cool thing to do is really vary up, especially with the legs. Like she's jumping back, right? So it would look really silly if her legs were exactly the same. Like just to really, really quickly recreate this. Let's say that she's pointing the guns out like that, right? And then the legs are exactly like that. It almost looks like she's on a roller coaster, you know, like holding on to the little straps over this, right? Like that, kicking her legs or whatever. But notice how when we kick one leg forward and the other one back, this gives us a great contrast, right? And one leg is reading in the silhouette as lower than the other. And this also adds some extra action and variety. And humans like variety in their sketches. And I drew the roller coaster lady a little bit off to the side, so I'm going to move it over so you can see. Alrighty then. Alright, so if she's jumping out of a window, she's obviously going to have like glass and stuff all over her, right? Or not on her, hopefully. That would hurt. But around her. Same thing will apply. Don't make all of the glass in the same space or the same size, right? We're looking for variety here. So I have like some big chunks that might be really, really close to the viewer up here. And then, you know, like up here too. Let's get rid of lady riding on Batman, the ride. And let's go ahead and throw in some more chunks over here, tiny chunks. And if you were to draw this in like a comic, you know, imagine where's the horizon, or where's the vanishing point rather? Like say the street is down here, right? Say the street is way down here, and there's like these, you know, like skyscrapers all around her, like that. That looks pretty cool. But again, look at how quickly I'm kind of laying this stuff in just for now, and I'm not worrying too much about, oh, where's the exact vanishing point. Right now, it's all about just getting your ideas down and just working with those. Working with what you got. Shake what your mama gave you. Right? I hope that wasn't derogatory. If not, or if so, well, that's just the way I roll. That's what this lady is doing. Shaking what her mama gave. Alright, so let's go ahead and continue here. Let's say the window that she's actually jumping out of is like really, really close up to the front. So we'll just kind of sketch that in. But again, we're not worrying too much about the background right now. We're worrying about posing. Okay, so let's continue with our lady parts. Alright, so a big thing that I've talked about before when you're foreshortening arms coming at you is to, I'm talking how much time we got. Alright, oh man. We were just speeding along. We've barely been going for like 20 minutes. Excellent. Excellent. Alright, so talking specifically about foreshortening forearms is notice how if I put my arm towards you, notice how right here, this part of your forearm almost like locks into this arm, right? Notice how my bicep kind of like pops out right there, right? And then the forearm almost fits into it like a puzzle piece. And I've talked about this before. And a very, very simple way to remember how to foreshorten your forearms is when you have a hand coming towards you, like say this is the fist coming towards you. The first shape that's going to be going back is going to be like an egg shape, like this, right? And then the second shape that appears is going to be like that, right? So it almost like fits in, and this is a drastic exaggeration, but this is a really, really good way to remember how to do forearms, right? You got one shape here and then one shape there. So it's like forearm is this way, bicep and tricep are that way. So they kind of lock into each other. I'll show you that one more time, so hopefully that kind of sinks in and you can see it for yourself. See this here? This is the egg going that way. You know, it's kind of like going that way. And then the bicep kind of comes in and kind of goes the opposite way and locks into it. So I hope that helps you out. And then the shoulder, if you want to take it one more step further, notice how the shoulder kind of comes from the outside and kind of rounds in, right? So the shoulder comes right through here like this. And then you get something like that. Alrighty, so these are the things that I like to think about when I'm just drawing foreshortened arms. It really, really helps me to simplify and get the idea that I'm looking for very, very quickly. And this is really where it's all at. Capturing the essence of the action in these parts is really, really what makes good art. People who try to get everything all perfect and work out the anatomy in this stage are really just going to be holding themselves back. Because even in the simplest stick figures, you can capture so much personality and just like flow, right? That's what it's all about. There's flow in the pose and in the action that you don't want to lose, and it can be captured in the simplest of a drawing, right? So that's what you're searching for first. Then you go on top of everything, and then you add in all the anatomy and show everybody that you know what you're doing. All right, so let's go ahead and do a little bit of that foreshortening exercise, right? So if we're going back like this, the first part of the forearm is going to be showing like that, right? So egg shape going that way. Second egg shape is going to be the bicep, right? Coming up over here, and it's going to be going that way, okay? And the elbow is going to be occurring right there. And so when you kind of go into rendering this, I would probably do something like that. Like if I was to make like semi-final lines, I would do something like this. Yes. Yeah, something like that. Kind of gets you started, right? All right. And basically all I'm doing is I'm just going back in here and trimming lines, sculpting lines, as I've said before. That's really the way that I like to work. It's very, very fun and relaxing. And I don't know exactly how I translate this to pen and paper, or I mean pencil paper, because I don't know, it's been so long working digital that when I work on pencil and paper, it's almost like I draw just like really lightly, so that way I can still kind of sculpt lines, and I can still kind of see things, but it's just a lot easier, right? It's a lot easier with digital to sculpt lines. Okay, so you got 1, 2. You want to think about that. Like my thought process going into that is, okay, forearm is this way, so bicep is that way. I really hope that makes sense, but just think about opposites. Think about the opposites attracting. Opposites looking attractive. Alrighty then. Now, moving on to faces. I really like to just kind of like really quickly draw in faces and try to capture a little bit of emotion that's happening here. Right? So I'll just draw that center line right through the egg shape, and then I'll draw like a shape that represents, you know, our mouth, like that, and a little nose there. And immediately start seeing our unibrowed, sexy matrix woman taking shape. Okay, and again, notice how I'm like erasing to create the drawing, right? All right, let's go ahead and throw in some hair. If she's falling, her hair is naturally going to be flowing towards us. Like that, yeah? Like that. Flowy hair. Beautiful flowy hair. Yeah. Good stuff. Good stuff. Now, what do I want her to be wearing? What would secret agent woman be wearing? Well, she definitely needs a sexy top. How about that? So let's give her like a short sleeve black top. And then we'll give her like some cool kind of utility looking pants. Pant things going on there. Yeah. Yes. Yes. It's good. Let's give her some, I'm actually going to duplicate this right now while we're working on this. I'm just showing you again how I continue to add detail. And once again, because I am a Photoshop user, I like to go in here and kind of like adjust things, right? Because like this head might be a tad bit small, so I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. With my skill in Photoshop. And yeah, let's go ahead and just continue with this. Continue with that hand. You can see really it's all about, I think it's all about just capturing the subtleties, right, in these foreshortened limbs, right? Because you look at that, you look at what's happening here and you're like, oh yes, I know exactly what's happening with her hands, right? I know exactly what's happening. She's falling out of the window, she's going backwards. I can see the hands on the guns and everything is working out better. It could be a little bit more clear and probably, yeah, it could be a little bit more clear and you can always improve upon the anatomy and the clarity. But for right now, it's definitely working the way that I'm looking at it. I definitely like it. Definitely, yeah. Okay, and then again, just going in and adding things, right? Let's not forget the crotchal region here. I'm gonna give her like some cargo pants, but it's good to know where like the seam goes up and kind of meets, right, in the crotchal region. It's always good. It's good. It's excellent information. Alrighty then, so let's go ahead and finish these pants off. And I really like to kind of like start doing a little bit of shading too. Like I'll kind of like add in a little bit of like faux shading just to see how it looks, you know. I'm playing with values at this point. This is kind of going into what we were talking about a few weeks ago when we were doing backgrounds. Remember how I was just working with values and sort of setting up a picture that way. That's exactly what I'm doing here, except now it's with a character. Setting up the values on a character. Sort of like dropping in lines where I think they look nice. And shading, you know, let's think about where, you know, the light is hitting. There's probably going to be a lot of light around these areas, like coming from the top. So I'm just laying in what I think would look nice. And you can see very quickly, it's actually starting to take shape. Very quickly starting to take shape. Okay, continuing. Sculpting, sculpting, sculpting. Yeah, this chick looks awesome. I like this lady. I like her very much. Cool. And let's go ahead and give her like some folds in her shirt, right? Because her belly is kind of hunched forward. So naturally there's going to be some folding action happening in here. Foldy action. It's good. It's good. And let's see, I'm going to put a little bit more hair in her face. When in doubt, just put some more hair in the face. Makes it look cool. Cool. I think her head is looking a little bit too much like an ice cream cone, so I'm going to kind of tone that down a little bit. And yeah, let's go ahead and just kind of clean this stuff up. And I want you to pay attention to how I've actually constructed this face. Like notice how I've not gone in and drawn eyes yet. I've really just kind of like just drawn, okay, here's like the tops of the eyebrows, here's the eyes, the nose, and the mouth. But notice how there's a lot of character and emotion already being captured in something that's as simple as this. This is really, really what I'm trying to drive the point home here, right? This is what I'm trying to drive home. is the power that comes in catching expression and posing in these simplified states, right? And this is really, really what's going to help you step up as an artist and be able to come up with ideas and like thumbnails and just really, really get your ideas onto paper without having to take days on it, you know what I mean? Like have to worry about all of these things you have to draw. Instead, just focus on the values, right? Focus on what you like, focus on, you know, what you can do for now. So yeah, I'm really, really liking this. And really, really pay attention to shapes. Like notice how I made this shape and it just represents a boot, right? It represents a foot going back. And then this shows, you know, this communicates what the boot looks like. You don't have to draw both boots exactly the same. The key is to really introduce just enough of that variety that it kind of just entices the human eye. And then you are free to do whatever else you wish. And I'm going to definitely give her like some pockets. She needs some pockets. Maybe she's like a jewel thief or something. Right? So she needs some cool satchels. Satchels! And cool sexy gun holsters, right? On her legs. She needs those. Can't do without those. There we go. Sexy gun holster. Check. Let's see, what else am I liking here? Just gonna kind of shade in these fingers here a little bit more. And at this time, guys, I think I want to, yeah, we've been going for about 35, 40 minutes. So at this time, I'd like to invite you to line your question catapults over the castle walls and cast them. And then I'll send them back on a bed of rice for you and all of us to enjoy. In fact, just saying that makes me really want some sushi. I really, really want some sushi after talking about beds of rice. Yes. Any questions, please? And then we'll end day 87 of the KNKL Show. This has actually been a really good daily. I really, really enjoyed this. Hope this has helped you guys out. It's really, really helped me out too. Even it's funny because I'm like teaching you guys, but I've said this before. It like teaches me too. It's like it really drives these points home and really, really kind of helps me out. Because trust me, I mean, there's days where there's projects that I get and I'm like, how the heck am I going to do this? Like, how the heck am I going to pose this character, right? But you just don't want to overthink it, right? Take care of it in its simple form, and then everything else will fall into place. Especially in this stage, where you can just sculpt lines and be like, I don't really like this thing. What is this, like a ponytail going on back here? Maybe I don't like that. I don't know if I like that. Okay, let's go ahead and redo that. And you don't have to worry about, oh, but I already drew all the lines and all of the detail in this hair, right? I drew all of this hair, right? Look at all this beautiful hair. And now I have to erase that? Oh, it took so much time. You know, all you're doing is playing around with shapes. Playing around with shapes. And that's what we like. Her neck is looking a little thick here. It's good. Fix that. Fix that. Fix that. Lovely ladies. Oh, and by the way, do yourselves a favor, and if you suck at drawing guns like I do, get yourselves a good reference when you're drawing your guns, because it will help you out a lot. It will save your life. No kidding. But if you want, you can kind of fudge with it and get a general look of whatever gun you're going for. Alrighty. And also notice the hands too. It's like another big thing that I like to do is I pay attention to the thumb and the forefinger, right? And then the rest of the fingers almost like make a shape, right? And that really, really helps me because just like the human body has a simple flowing line through it, hands can also be very expressive and they also have a flow that goes through them. So if you just kind of focus on the most important parts, you know, being the thumb and the forefinger, and then you just kind of create the remaining fingers as a shape, it helps me out. You guys try it out, see if it works for you. I don't know if it'll work for you. But what if it does? What if it does? Then you're going to be a happy man. A very happy man. I'm gonna give her pigtails. Pigtail lady. Pigtail jewel thief. Oh my gosh. Brilliant comic idea. So it's my next one right there. We're putting Emma on hold, and we're moving into Pigtail Jewel Thief. Hope you guys don't mind. Yeah. And notice that the hair is now overlapping with the gun. Let's just make sure that we remember to keep the values of the hair in these regions a little bit lighter. That way our gun shows up in front. Okay. Okay. Let's see. Pony Sharp is asking, how do you predict the flow of scrunching clothing? Oh. Good, different. Good, different. I just read the freaking chat as I was trying to talk. This is really like the scrunching of the pants down here and like the scrunching of the cloth. I did do a tutorial on this. It wasn't like the best tutorial, but really I think the best way to kind of learn it is really just look at reference, right? You're curious about how the boot meets the pants here and how it scrunches up. I looked at girls. I think I typed in like punk goth girls, right? And they had like these really kind of tight, you know, jeggings, I think they call them. They're like jeans, but they're like leggings. And the way that they met the shoes, I thought was really cool because it's like tight on the leg all the way down, and then right where it meets the shoe, it kind of like bunches up a little bit. So that's kind of what I'm doing here. Except I'm making them a little bit more like baggy cargo pants. But yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of, I mean, if you look at books, they talk about like, oh, folds work like this, right? They make Z shapes and X shapes and S shapes and A shapes and B shapes, right? But I really think the best way to learn about folds is just to practice them, right? Because I can't really explain how you know exactly how this is going to work, right? Like how the shirt is going to bunch up when the waist is moving forward. But I know that it will happen, right? So I just kind of like throw in some shapes. Oftentimes I think what works for me is kind of working in like S shapes. Like see that S shape in there? I really like stuff like that. And see kind of like on her chest how the cloth doesn't go straight across. There has like this little fold in there, right? Like that. I really, really like that. And then also like where the arm is meeting here, like you can even look at on yourself, right? Look at how all of the cloth like bunches around your armpit and kind of like wraps around your arm. So that's also going to be happening in here. All right, so this really all comes down to just practicing and learning and observing. And really just look at it as a fun experience of learning. Elmo's learning adventure. Alrighty then, peoples. Any more questions? Let's see. John's asking, how's the long hair holding up? It is getting absolutely crazy, and I want to cut it off. But I'm going to stick it out. I'm going to stick it out. Everybody's going to call me emo, but I'm okay with that. I can take it. I can take it. Alright, people. Time to load up epic outro music and get out of here. Because we are going to wrap up episode 87 of the KNKL Show. So I'd like to thank everyone once again for joining me live on Ustream. For those of you on YouTube, too lazy to watch me live, thumbs up if you like it, thumbs down if you don't. I'll see you guys tomorrow for whatever Wednesday. We'll be working on whatever the heck I feel like working on. Until then, you guys take care, and I'll see you later.